Hello, this is another part in this series about how to make hoses and wires and so on. With this video I'm going to focus on these hoses here, which are made with a wire coil and then a material that's shrink wrapped around that. And so in this scene I have these two here, I have another one over there, and these two here go down this tunnel into this second area, which I haven't really done yet, as you can see. So I'll show you how I made these. So let's just jump outside the scene and I will unhide a few things here. I'm going to disable all these modifiers. Okay, so the first thing you start off with is just your spline object, which is a series of arcs, and the way I made them is pretty much as you'd expect. And just drag out a few of them like this. So I think I just did 3. So I made sure they're all set to Bezier corner so I can break the tangent handles. And then just adjust them like this. So you want them all to be slightly different to introduce a bit of randomness into them. And then just make sure that the top one is directly above the bottom one like that. And then you can take the spline and with your axis constraints and snaps you can clone it like that. And you can do this as many times as you want until you have a length like this. And once you've cloned them all, just select all the vertices and weld them together. On the very top and bottom, you need to cut the arc in half. See, like just I have half an arc there. Okay, so I'm going to jump back to this one because there's a lot of modifiers here to put on, and I'm going to enable them one by one rather than rebuilding it from scratch. It's just a little easier for me. So the second modifier is a lathe, and the center is offset, which gives us a nice round volume. And then you can unwrap that, which is an optional step. Then turbo smooth, which will smooth out the peaks. So you got to remember that that's a wire underneath there. So it would have some roundness to it. It's not a sharp point. And then we have a couple of low frequency noises on the whole object. To get the, I'm just going to switch over to shaded view here. To get this kind of effect here, what characterizes this is that this is the flexible material is deformed in the concave areas, but it doesn't, this deformation doesn't occur where the wires are, because the wires are pushing out through the flexible material. So we need to isolate those concave areas somehow. So there's a few ways that you can do this. The way I did it was with the volume select. I'm just going to isolate this object for a moment, and I'll show you this volume select. So the volume select is a cylindrical volume with a slightly narrower diameter than the actual hose itself, which means it's going to grab most of the vertices that are in the concave areas and not the ones on the peaks where the wire is. Now, because there's some noise underneath, it's not going to be a perfect selection, which is fine because that will just introduce more randomness into the displacement, which is what we want. So then on top of that, we have a much higher frequency noise just on those selected vertices. And then we have a volume select on top of that, which will select the object. So we're passing an object selection up the stack. Then I gave it a little FFD just to make it a bit narrower. These modifiers here are because I unwrapped this along with a bunch of other objects. You don't need to do that. I did experiment with a displacement. In the end, I chose not to do that because displacing surfaces that are tightly curved generally gives a bad result. Displacement works best on flat surfaces, as a general rule, not always. Okay, so this is our master object. So I'm going to end the isolation. And then what I did was I would create a reference of this, okay, which I'm not going to do now because I've done it already. And each reference then has a unique path to form modifier. and I just give it a different percentage, and I have them overlap slightly. Like there, you can see the transition from one to the other. Cool, that's it.